Chapter 6 of Jane Eyre begins on Jane's second day, when the girls are unable to wash because the water in their pitchers is frozen. Jane begins to realize how harsh life at Lowood is. The girls are underfed and overworked. In class, she notices that Miss Scatcherd frequently punishes Helen Burns for minor infractions. Helen explains that she benefits from the criticisms because Mrs. Scatcherd is only trying to improve her. Jane, however, disagrees, as she feels compelled to defy anyone who punishes her unjustly. Helen advises Jane to follow the Christian doctrine of love your enemy. When Jane tells Helen why she can't love Mrs. Reed and John, Helen responds that Jane would be happier if she tried to forget about Mrs. Reed and her own passionate emotions. Chapter 7 takes place after Jane has been at Lowood for 3 weeks. Mr. Brocklehurst visits the school and reprimands Miss Temple for spending too much money on food and clothing for the students, and demands that girls with abundant or curly hair cut it off to look more modest. When Jane drops her slate, breaking it, Mr. Brocklehurst punishes her by making her stand on a stool in the front of the room for 40 minutes, warning the school to shun Jane because she is a liar. As her emotions rise, Helen comes near to talk to the teacher and meets Jane's eyes in a silent signal of support. In Chapter 6, Jane is fascinated by the way Helen handles being punished. Although she has a vague sense that she should learn to control her rebellious nature, she can't quite understand Helen's endurance doctrine. Throughout much of the novel, self-control over one's passions becomes important in many characters' development. Most notably, channeling passions becomes a frequent reflection of Jane's. In Chapter 7, Jane's ability to follow Helen's advice is tested when she's made to stand on a stool in front of the class. An even greater test is the rage that builds after Brocklehurst condemns her as a liar. This chapter leaves readers curious as to how Jane will respond, in a fiery passion or with endurance. The chapter ends with Jane reflecting on the irony of Helen's deeply moral nature versus the unjust punishment she suffers. Brontë carries the theme of hypocrisy that could be seen in Mrs. Reed onto the school.